Welcome to another talk about Palestine in Snak om Palæstina. The Danish Palestinian Ambassador, Manuel Hassassian, is with us today. And yeah, you're sitting in Copenhagen. So
yes.
Yeah, I'm sitting here in Amman, and I'm sorry that this might be a little bit noisy sometimes, and we might need to have a little break because I'm living just next to the mosque, so the adhan is very loud here. So we might need to have a little break when the adhan is coming. And
That's fine.
But first of all, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background, as a professional background and also personal background.
Yes, I was born and raised in Jerusalem. I'm a Palestinian. I'm ethnically Armenian. I've been educated in Jerusalem, and then, I went to the American University of Beirut, where I studied into politics. And then I went to the United States. I got my master's degree and PhD, came back to Bethlehem University. I started teaching the first year. Then I became the Dean of Students, later Dean of the Faculty of Arts, and then I became the head of the university. In the meantime, I was also elected by the universities to be the head of the Council of Higher Education in Palestine. And I joined Mr. late Faisal Husseini as a consultant to him. And I was part and parcel of the Orient House. Then I became more involved in the negotiations, where I started working on the issue of Jerusalem as a consultant, basically. And in the year 2005, I was appointed by President Mahmoud Abbas to become ambassador to London. I served in London 13 years. Then I was transferred to Hungary. I stayed 1 year. And now it's been more than 4.5 years. I've been ambassador to Copenhagen.
How come you were transferred from London?
I stayed there 13 years, and it was about time that, I should move on and get other experiences in other countries.
Okay. So it was not a deformation if you
No.
Okay.
No.
But so you have a lot of experience with the work of diplomacy and meeting with British politicians.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well, I survived 4 prime ministers and 4 foreign ministers. And I survived 2-3 elections in 13 years. And I had a very good networking with the press. If I tell you, I had at least 1,000 interviews before I left London, you have to believe me. So I had good contact with the press. I had many articles published in The Guardian, in The Independent, in The Economist. I had a wide range connection, I would say, unlike Denmark, which is very frugal when it comes to interviews. But we managed, like publishing 10 articles in English, were translated into Danish in major newspapers here, like Politiken, Berlingske, and what have you. But my diplomatic life in Denmark is incomparable with that of the United Kingdom. Activities are much less. The media here is not does not welcome Palestinians, and I have been maybe 4 or 5 times on television and some interviews, maybe 6 times. But those were, very critical times where, the interviewers came with the idea of asking certain questions that you might think it's critical. So it's a directed kind of interviews. Basically, what I want to say to you, that the government here also is not that easy, because they support Israel, and
they support Israel.
Yes, they support Israel. They support their part of NATO, part of the United States hemisphere. But I must say that also they support the Palestinians on a certain level, like humanitarian, like infrastructural development, things like that. They have been also generous, with funding UNRWA. Now, from that perspective, the Danish government has been really very, I mean, generous with the Palestinians. But on the political level, they either abstain or they say yes. But in general, I mean, the general framework of this government here in Denmark is much more inclined towards supporting Israel.
Yeah, of course. You can argue that the Danish government is 100% behind Israel. Maybe they're giving a little support to Palestinians here and there, but at the end of the day, they're behind the genocide.
Yes.
And yes. The leading party inside the Palestinian administration is Fatah, which is the biggest organ inside the Palestinian administration. Are you part of Fatah yourself?
No, I'm an independent person. I have always been independent
Mhm.
because running a university, you cannot be a partisan.
Mhm.
So when I was running Bethlehem University and all universities, I was always independent. I can consider myself a national patriotic Palestinian.
And I think just as a general, I think many people, maybe they don't really understand what is the Palestinian administration, because especially, let's say, there's a lot of newcomers coming to the Palestinian cause, a lot of pro-Palestinians, especially after 7th of October. Many people open their eyes, but they don't have a deep insight in what is actually the Palestinian administration. And I think also Palestinians don't really know, especially the expats.
Yes.
Can you explain us
Yes.
what it is?
Of course, since 1973, the Palestinian Liberation Organization became the legitimate representative of all Palestinians and referred to as the PLO. And the PLO ran the affairs of the Palestinians inside the occupied territories by being, in exile. They were in Lebanon, in Jordan, Lebanon, then they went to Tunisia. Then with the Oslo agreement between them and the Israelis, they came to Palestine. They were admitted, and Yasser Arafat, our chairman at that time and president, came to Palestine. And as a result of that Oslo agreement, the Palestinian Authority came into existence. And the Palestinian Authority came to take after the civil administration of the Israelis when they, withdrew. So running the daily services of the Palestinian, daily services and what have you, ministries were formed to take care of the trade, tourism, water, and what have you. And the Palestinian Authority became the employer for all Palestinians, especially in the public sector. So all salaries came from the Palestinian Authority to all these public sectors, to almost more than 30,000 employees, I would say, at that time, were getting paid from the Palestinian authorities. And the money used to come from donor countries, especially Europe. And at that time, in the beginning, the United States, then they stopped, after the Second Intifada. Of course, from Arab countries, we used to get also some, funding. And that's how we ran our daily affairs. But the chief negotiator politically is the PLO. And the PLO stands still as the chief negotiator with any future negotiations with Israel. So the Palestinian Authority came as a result, basically, of the Oslo Agreement. The Legislative Council and all the ministers came as a result of the elections that took place in Palestine in 1996. Then another one took place in 2005. And since 2005 until today, we did not have elections due to the circumstances and due to the occupation policies, especially with Netanyahu's extreme conservative and radical, I would say, position vis-a-vis the Palestinians.
So you believe that Israel is the only reason why you did not have elections, and why there hasn't been a presidential election?
Israel, of course, plays a very important role because we cannot have elections without East Jerusalem, and we cannot have elections without Gaza. And Israel has always been impeding any kind of progress on the elections because they don't want elections. They want to keep the status quo as is, and they want to deepen the wedge and the gulf of inequity between the various factions, especially when it tried hard to concoct an alternative leadership to the PLO, i.e. by, supporting Hamas.
So what you said yourself, that the PA's one of the main function, of course, is to serve the Palestinian people.
Yes.
Around 2 weeks ago, there was an incident in Al Khalil, or Hebron, as the Israelis are calling it. There was actually a member of the PA, Mohammed Lasoud, and he killed 3 Israelis around in the outskirts of Hebron. The Israelis asked the PA to turn him in. He did not want to be handed over to the Israelis, so he went to the PA himself, which resulted in that the PA actually, they gave him into the Israelis, who after that, they killed him. So this is an example of that the PA actually turned against their own people. What do you think of this situation, of this incident?
Well, incidents happen, but there are 2 sides to the story. I mean, you don't take one side and forget the other side, my friend. Mm-hmm. And the PA has been serving the Palestinian people since the Oslo Agreement. So we don't shove everything aside and we look at the incidents that, happen here and there and try to conclude that the PA is against its people. This is not true. Up till now, all salaries of all people, all salaries that go to the martyrs' parents, are being paid by the PA. Everything that is done in Gaza is paid by the PA. So you come and slash everything and you say that the PA has turned in one of their people to the Israelis is something that needs validation. I don't have the validation for that. That's why, I cannot answer that question. But there are certain incidents that could happen. There are certain mistakes that could happen, but we cannot generalize and try basically to criticize the PA for all that has been doing for the last 25, 30 years since the Oslo Agreement and say that they are against them. That's not true. Our preventive security have defended many refugee camps, and they were there, trying to help our people. They have been in contact with the Israelis. I mean, physically, many times, and many of the preventive security and of our, security forces have been killed by the Israelis. So we cannot just come blanket everything and take one incident and try to draw conclusions. I mean, it's not fair.
Okay, the PA has said that after you've been in China, you were at some point meeting also with Hamas and with China serving like a condition where you can negotiate, and you actually been talking about the possibility of becoming a technocrat and with a joint government together with Hamas. So can you tell me more about what happened in China?
Well, it's not the first time that Hamas and Fatah meet. This is maybe the 6th time in Saudi Arabia, in Egypt, and what have you. We have been meeting all the time. And for the last 16 years, 17 years, we have been in contact with Hamas, negotiating, end of this split that has been detrimental to the national ethos of our people. But unfortunately, there has not been any kind of an agreement. Now, the last shot was in Peking, in Beijing. We have met, we have agreed on everything. And supposedly we should, start our national unity government as a prelude for national elections. But the situation in Gaza, the situation in the West Bank, are impeding the progress of, trying to implement what we have agreed in Beijing. And that's why, the Israelis have been trying not to have the conducive conditions for us to meet and to get over with all our, differences and to form this national unity government that could be, a temporary government until, the dust settles with, let's assume, a humanitarian ceasefire. And then things, if they become normal, we could go to elections and have, another government that could represent all the Palestinians. But as far as we are concerned, we don't see still Hamas, at the outset to come and form a national unity government. because of the situation in Gaza. They're not really focusing on this issue as much as they're focusing on how to survive in Gaza and how to defend their people in Gaza.
But wouldn't you say actually that also you mentioned yourself there was no election since 2005 and 6. Wouldn't you say that the PA is already a technocrat?
Well, you see, if you want to look at the whole situation, we need elections. Even the president himself is asking for elections. It's about time to have elections. But I ask you, is it the right time now to have elections?
But
Why?
before the 7th of October, there was a lot of time to do it. No?
Before the 7th of October, if you look at the situation, Netanyahu was impeding any kind of attempt to have elections because they did not allow us to have elections in Jerusalem. And without Jerusalem, you cannot have elections. This is before October 7th. Now, after October 7th, the genocide, which has been, continuing in Gaza, is a major impediment for us to have elections. How could we have elections in Gaza? How could we have elections in the West Bank when we have settlers every day are, barging into our cities and villages and using the gun-ho mentality of shooting and killing? How can we have elections? We are not in a state where we could have democratic elections freely when we are under siege and under genocide.
The Palestinian administration has on several occasions been criticized for actually being an extended arm of the Israeli government. And also, like the example I came with before, which is not the only example, like when with Mohammed al-Assoud, who was given up by the PA. It's not the first example where the PA has arrested their own citizens and handed them over to the Israelis. And do you understand why people they see the PA as an extended hand of the Israelis?
Well, let me tell you, there are agreements that took place between the Palestinian Authority and Israel. One of the major agreements is security, collective security by both sides. And that has been a major agreement between both parties in order to reduce any kind of clashing, any kind of killings on this side and that side and what have you. So the commitment of the Palestinian Authority on the issue of security is part and parcel of an agreement by the PLO. So we cannot just come and say that, okay, we want to end the security relationship and expose the West Bank also for another genocide. And this is why the President Mahmoud Abbas tried as much as possible to salvage the West Bank from being destroyed by the Israelis and by the settlers. And for this reason, the question of security is not the way as it is portrayed that every day we are taking our, fighters and giving them to the Israelis. This is not a true situation. Security means security for both peoples. This is how it has been defined. And we have been also securing our people from any kind of, attacks by the Israelis. So if you write an agreement, and if you accept it and you consent on that, then it is very difficult to renege on it. And we are in a situation where we don't have any more ties with the Israelis, except, we're trying to defend our camps, we're trying to defend our people through these security arrangements. Of course, the settlers are not, I agree with you, the settlers, with the help of the Israelis, are breaching all kinds of arrangements. There will come a time where, maybe the PA will be cornered to the extent that they will say, no more security arrangements. But who is going to protect our people then?
But you understand that Palestinians do not, they actually feel at some point they are battling two enemies because they are battling the Israelis, and at some point they also afraid of their own administration actually could hand them over to the Israelis because of the security connection between Israel and the PA.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you this. I mean, frankly speaking, and I want to be very frank with you, the way you're putting the questions is a way that there is a certain kind of a split between the leaders of Palestine and that of the people. And this is not true, my friend. If you go and make a survey, you can see how much support the PA has from the Palestinian people. Now, there are certain people who are in opposition, and they try basically to smear the image of the PA, try to bring incidents like this where, you know, they try to create a certain kind of a wedge among the public opinion in Palestine, for the simple fact that, you know, since the president is not giving orders to preventive security to shoot at Israelis, he's a traitor. And that's how they are trying, you know, to portray that image. It's not that they should consider the fact that he is protecting them from destruction, because in 2002, the West Bank was destroyed and many people were killed by the Israelis. Netanyahu wants an excuse in the West Bank to do what he is doing in Gaza. And the Palestinian president is not allowing that. This doesn't mean that the Palestinian president and the PA are traitors and are trying to submit all these fighters, as you claim, every day to the Israelis. Show me how many incidents like this happened during the last 12 months. How many of those fighters have been, you know, been taken and given to the Israelis?
Okay, I don't have the exact number, but I know this is
You
something
cannot blanket and say this is what the Palestinians' opinion about their leadership. It's not true.
I know that it's something that not just since the 7th of October, but it's been happening over the years. Because it's not a secret, there is a cooperation with the Israeli government and the PA also.
We said there is cooperation, you know, a part and parcel of the Oslo Agreement. Yes, nobody denies that.
But if we take it to the next level, or just bear with me 1 second, because now the Adhan is here. So
I don't hear the Azan. I hope I hear the Azan. Maybe I can be more open to you.
Okay, Khalas, we'll do it with the Adhan. Very good.
Yalla.
It takes me to the next question, which is, I think it's maybe even the more severe and what I think many people have on their mind, and me personally as well, because now there's a genocide, and the genocide has been going on. You can discuss there's been a genocide since 1948, but now it's in full scale, and we see it in Gaza. They are trying to annihilate all the Palestinians in Gaza, and the Israelis, they portray it as they have a war against Hamas, and the Western leaders, they're jumping on the same wagon, the same lie. Do you personally think this is a war against Hamas?
No.
But how do you see it?
I see it's an excuse of pursuing Hamas for what they did on October 7, to blanket Gaza, to ethnically cleanse Gaza, to try to forcefully diasporize the 2.2 million, to reoccupy Gaza, and then reoccupy the West Bank and cede it to Great Israel. And this is what the intention of Netanyahu. It's ethnic cleansing, displacement, genocide, and killing. And by the way, when you talk about cooperation, and you were, you know, extensively talking about cooperation between the PA and that of Israel, the intention, my friend, is to try to destroy the Palestinian Authority now. They don't want Mahmoud Abbas, our president. They don't want this authority. They want to reoccupy and cede the West Bank. Nobody is looking beyond their nose. Now, most of the time, we were talking about, you know, the internal Palestinian issue. But the onus should be put on Israel, not on the Palestinians.
Okay, so if we're talking about union between the Palestinians,
yes.
How come now the Israelis, they're not just destroying the West Bank, Gaza. They themselves said they went full scale on the West Bank. This is their intentions. So how come that the Palestinian PA, how come they did not join the resistance now? How come they did not go in and join the resistance? If you're talking about union among the Palestinians, I think this is what many people don't understand.
Who is fighting in the West Bank? Who is fighting in the West Bank? Fatah is fighting in the West Bank.
Would you say
Fatah represents, it's the main party of the Palestinian Authority.
Okay, so you're saying that Fatah is fighting in the West Bank?
Yes, yes,
okay.
Sir.
Okay,
yes.
Because this is, for us sitting here, it's difficult to see exactly who are the ones fighting. We know there's different groups, very young men who are taking up arms and joining and creating their own small fractions and fighting against Israel. But are you saying that the PA is behind them?
Well, they are part of Fatah, and Fatah is part of the PA. And we don't see these fighters being, incarcerated and given to the Israelis. They are fighting and they are dying as martyrs.
So there is, I know there is segments inside the PA who support the armed resistance, and also many of these many of the members, high members of the PA, they even have their own children inside the resistance. Some of their sons are fighting, so of course they are. So of course they're supporting their own sons, but it doesn't seem that there is a joint agreement inside the whole of the PA to go full scale for the resistance. So there must be some, or am I right? If there are some elements inside the PA who's against the armed resistance, since we don't see it it's not an official thing going on.
Yani, one has to be a little bit smart. Although I'm on camera with you now, you don't come and say exactly what your intentions are and who is behind what. You have to play politics on one side and you resist on the other side, and you become diplomatic in the way you try to portray it to the people. So shall I come on camera and tell you exactly who is behind this and that? It's not convenient, my friend.
No, but I still believe in a way that it is, as I see it now.
How many of the Palestinian preventive security have been martyred by taking action on their side? Many of them. They come from our preventive security. So what do you call these?
Of course, yeah, but still.
You're asking me to tell the leadership, come and declare that you are joining the resistance, and that's it. There is no more agreements between us and Israel, and let's fight a war. Do you think we can fight a war like our people in Gaza, the way they are surviving? Can they preventive security with minimum arm? I'm just talking now strategy. Can they fight the Israeli war machines? I'm asking you, is it possible to do that?
Hamas are fighting them.
Hamas are fighting them. They're fighting them with rockets. They're fighting them with RPG. They have tunnels. They have all the medium for that. But we are exposed in the West Bank.
Do you understand also that the moment...
I'm not a strategist. Listen, I'm not a military strategist to talk about this. I'm a diplomat, and I'm supposed to answer political questions, not military questions.
I just have, but also I think this is a very important thing also for the whole world. Everyone who's against the biggest assertive, also had the best card on the hand, the Israelis, is they fooled the world to believe that they're fighting Hamas, even though the truth is they're fighting the whole Palestinian people.
Yes,
I believe. Don't you believe that the moment the Palestinian or the PA officially join forces with Hamas, no longer can the Israelis say we're fighting Hamas. Then this officially that they're fighting the whole of Palestine.
But they are fighting all Palestinians.
We know, you and me know this. You and me know this.
No. Israel is fighting all Palestinians. They are also I told you, they are trying basically to crumble, the Palestinian Authority. This is the intention. They don't want President Abbas. They don't want this authority. Regardless, we have exonerated them by pragmatically showing that they are committing genocide against our people, not only now in Gaza, but also in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. And, it's crystal clear that the Israelis, they don't want the Palestinian leadership. So the onslaught is on all the Palestinian people, whether Hamas, whether Fatah, whether PA, and what have you. We are now in a situation where war is waged against us, a war of extermination, a war of decimation, where the international community is just watching. And now I don't think this debate about internal division is important at a time when there is a war against all our people at all fronts and at all cross borders, as we say.
And that's what I'm trying to get at, because I think what's happening in the West Bank now is that they went full scale now. They said it themselves, they want to annex the West Bank. The other day, Benjamin Netanyahu, he showed the map. There was no West Bank on this map, and he showed the map of so-called Israel. There was
Yeah.
no West Bank there, only Gaza. It
Yeah.
means they want to annex. This is their plan, and they're not even being secret about it.
No.
They want to annex the West Bank. So it means is if there wasn't a time to go to war with Israel, when is a better time than now when we're standing on the border of annihilation,
Yeah.
both of Palestine and the Palestinian people?
When you talk about war, as if you're talking about two entities that are, compatible and they can fight a war, and one side is not doing that because they are, afraid or they don't want to be risking, any kind of confrontation with Israel. My friend, what war? Israel could annihilate the West Bank in one day. They could flatten it with two F-16s. What war are you talking about? What militias do we have? What kind of weapons do we have to fight Israel? We have to be a little bit reasonable, my friend. And that's why we're trying to salvage the West Bank in not being annihilated like Gaza. At least we will have a hope that the dust settles in Gaza and things will be better without the West Bank being totally, annihilated by Israel, which it has the capabilities to do that in less than 2-3 days.
So what is the hope?
What war are we talking about?
So what is the hope? What is the hope in the sense of
the hope is that we have to continue putting pressure, okay, and by being united in exposing Israel and what it is doing to our people in Gaza and in the West Bank, rather than just picking on the PA, whether it is doing this or not doing that. This is not the time for internal debate as much as this is the time basically to exonerate, Israel, basically from saying that it is fighting, only Hamas, and that's not the reason. The reason was going into Gaza, pursuing Hamas as an excuse to get rid of 2.2 million Palestinians. And then after that, they want to blanket the West Bank and cede it basically to Israel proper. And that's why the Jordanian government is very worrisome about the fact that, this war could end up in the forceful diasporization of the West Bank, 3.2 million people to go to Jordan. Look at the bigger picture, my friend. Don't look at the only one side of the issue, and i.e. the Palestinians. I agree with you that we have to be united. It's about time we have to be united. We should have a united strategy politically, but we cannot have one faction deciding about the future of all the nation of Palestine, and while we are being shoved aside and not being part and parcel of all this equation. This is what happened on October 7th. So I'm not going to deal with these issues now because these are internal matters. The international community, they don't have to know about our internal schisms. We have to work out our internal differences. I agree with you that we should be consensual, that we should have a united front, and this will put us on a better position politically and diplomatically when we fight our cause. But now we are trying to fight Israel's propaganda through all these mass media. We're trying to change the perceptions of the public opinion of all the people in Europe. And look how things are changing in Europe. I assume you live in Denmark too, and you see, I have been boggle-minded by the fact to see hundreds of thousands of Danish people on the streets, asking Israel, to stop the war and stop the genocide. So you should say that we as Palestinians have changed the perceptions of the world now. And the media is no more. And the media is no more biased only for Israel. No, now the media is creating a kind of balance. But still there is yellow journalism. My friend, I have been in tougher interviews than yours on issues on Hamas. And you have always been very straightforward that Hamas is part and parcel of our people, of our society. They are Palestinians. They have their way of thinking, not consensual with the PLO, and it's their ideology. Fine, we respect that.
I'd like to maybe, okay, so jump to something, so for the future, you're also talking about I can feel you also coming in on the subject of the future. So let's talk a little bit about the future. What is the aspect of the PAs now, according to, for example, a two-state solution? You've been talking about a two-state solution until now. Is this still your point of view, a two-state solution?
There is something that we call wishful thinking.
And what does it look like, a two-state solution? Yeah.
Let me answer.
Yeah.
There is something that we call wishful thinking. Our wishful thinking has been a two-state solution because we thought that the two-state solution is the only pragmatic solution, which has been shouldered by the United Nations and by the international community. And supposedly it should have been brokered, by the United States, which turned out to be unequivocally supporting, the top dog, Israel, over the underdog. Okay. This has been a total and dismal failure by the third party. But today, if I go to the West Bank and you visit the West Bank, you see that the West Bank has been being divided into slices of what we call Swiss cheese now. There is no geographic contiguity, and all these enclave and cantons that we talk about, all right, is seen in the West Bank. So it is impossible with the spread of settlements and with the cutting the Swiss cheese into major cantons is going to be an eligible, what we call a two-state solution. Unless settlements should be dismantled, things will go back to the pre-1967, then we can talk about a two-state solution. But you tell me, what other solutions do we have on the table?
Okay, so it means if you somehow are working for a two-state solution where the Jewish settlements they will leave, all the Jewish settlers they will leave and go back to Israel and so on, and there's going to be some kind of Palestine and the West Bank. But this also gets us into the subject of, for example, I believe there's many problems with this arrangement. First of all, which is I think the most important of all subjects for all Palestinians, is the right of return. And does that mean that the PA will only work for a Palestinian state inside the West Bank? Where does that leave all the Palestinians who are not from the West Bank?
First of all,
do they lose the right of return? Me myself, we're from Haifa, my family, so I don't have the right to return anymore because there's only a Palestinian state in the West Bank.
No, let me answer you. First of all, when we have accepted the two-state solution, all the PLO factions have accepted the two-state solution. Okay, at that time, Hamas did not accept the two-state solution, and they were considered to be in opposition. All right? But today, if you ask Hamas leaders, and they have said it, that they believe that a two-state solution on the borders of 1967 is acceptable to them. There are many statements that have been said by leaders of Hamas. Now, the right of return is a sacred right, my friend. Neither the PLO nor anybody could give up the right of return. The right of return is a sacred right where Palestinians have to go back to their original homes, not to the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Gaza as a state. And this is a basic, inalienable right supported by UN resolutions. So there is no way that we could accept any kind of an agreement without the right of return and without the full sovereignty over East Jerusalem, including our holy shrines, the Al-Aqsa and Haram Sharif.
But everybody's now, there's two, when you hear top diplomats talk about also a two-state solution today, even top diplomats from UN and so on, people are talking about this whole thing about two-state solution. It's a joke. It's like something they laugh about in the UN, in the corners. And also, do you really, I know it's the official politics of the PLO still, but seriously, the people on the street going to the demonstration, even among the many Jews who are joining the demonstrations and advocating for a free Palestine, everybody now, the voice of the streets all around the world, everybody's advocating for a free Palestine from the river to the sea, and it means a democracy for everybody. So I believe this Fata Morgana of a two-state solution with a Palestinian state and still with a Zionist state next to us, who at the end of the day are dreaming about annihilating all the Palestinians, and it's impossible. It's like a reflection in the desert. It's a dream. It's a Fata Morgana. It can never happen. And what does it mean? That Palestine should be a sovereign state as the terms of Israel? They will also get nuclear weapons and so on. So this will never happen. So this two-state solution isn't it? And isn't it just only serving the Zionists' agenda at the end of the day to talk about a two-state solution?
Listen, I'm going to be very brief with you because I have another appointment. I have to leave.
Okay.
I tell you, now there is no talk about a two-state solution. Nobody's talking about a two-state solution because the intention of Israel is a one-state solution, i.e. Israel controlling the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem. So we're talking about Jewish supremacy. We're talking about one-state solution, which is total occupation of our country, the historic part of Palestine. Nobody's talking about a two-state solution from the PLO now, because we don't know when the dust settles what is going to be the future. And as I'm telling you, today, the West Bank is also exposed to total destruction. So what are we talking about? Let's put this ideological issue of a two-state solution aside. Let's talk about the war of survival now. How can we survive as Palestinians, 5.6 million Palestinians, you know, under heavy barrage of military equipments and killings and extermination, you know, our people, innocent people in Gaza, the West Bank, and what have you. I think this is our concern now, the concern of survival, not the concern about the future of a two-state solution. Maybe it was an idea, a dream that came through in the 90s. Now it's no more a dream. Now we are trying to survive this war machine, which is killing our innocent people. And let's put our onus on the international community, on the Europeans, on America to come and help these needy Palestinians who are unarmed and being slaughtered every day and seen on television. This is what we want as leadership, and not talking about a two-state solution and what have you, because we don't know what the future is going to be.
Okay. So I know you're leaving now, so I'm just gonna ask you the last question. It's like a combined question. My father himself, he was from Haifa. He later became Fatah, and he fought for Fatah against the Israelis. Eventually, he left the fighting because he saw his comrades dying on the front line while the leaders were putting their money in their pockets. So he got to the point he felt that this was not about liberating Palestine. But so he left and he went and he came to Denmark, disillusioned about the liberation of Palestine at that point. That's why he left.
Okay.
So what would you, my father, he's dead now.
Yeah.
But what would you tell my
Allah
father?
yarhamu, Allah yarhamu.
Allah yarhamu. What would you tell my father if he was alive today? And what are your strategy for the future? What are your visions for the future?
First of all, I mean, corruption is found all over the world. Now you're going to tell me that there is no corruption in England or in Israel or in America or in Denmark and what have you. There are exceptional people who are, you know, selfish to make money out of wars. We know that. But I wish your father is alive now to see how many hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have been killed so far and how tens of thousands of Fatah have been martyred, you know, fighting for the liberation of Palestine. Just to make a flat, remark by this that, you know, people are just making money out of this is not true. Yani, we have been paying in our lives for the last 76 years, all this being obliterated because certain few who are exploiting the situation for their own interest to come and blanket, you know, all the resistance that have been done by Fatah for the last 35 years. We can't generalize.
And your visions for the future, if there was a strategy, can you share what would be the strategy for the Palestinians? What should we hope for? If we say now, as Palestinians, you are you are the PA, you are the Palestinian administration. So we say you represent all of us. So we want to follow you. So tell us, what is the visions? What is the strategy? What should ease our hearts, give us some comfort? What should make us...
First of all, your heart should be easy if you can stop this genocide against our people. This should be our main strategy now. The second strategy is to be united. The third strategy is to go to elections. The fourth strategy is to see what people want. And we go along with the desires of people. One state, two state, confederation, federation, call it as you like. I have written extensively on this. I wish I could send you a copy of my article on 15 models of sovereignty for Jerusalem and that of Palestine. What would be the shaping of the future? So I cannot just in a nutshell tell you, but this is, you know, my immediate reaction to you is these stages we have to pass through until we reach a solution where we should have a consensus between our people and their representatives that they elect to decide for them the shaping of the future that could guarantee their inalienable rights.
With those words, I thank you very much for joining us and talk to us. So it was a pleasure talking to you. And you.
It's my pleasure. I've been very casual with you.
Yes, and I hope I was not too hard on you. So
no.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All the best.
Allah ma'ak. Allah ma'ak.
Bye bye. Salam.
Bye bye.
Salam.